two sides. Okay. Hey everyone, and welcome to my channel. I'm Nikki, and in today's video, I've got some copycat fast food recipes that I'm gonna be sharing with you guys. I lost 70 pounds back in 2020, and before I had started my weight loss journey, I was getting fast food 1 to 2 times a day. When I started my weight loss journey, one of my biggest challenges was just kind of eliminating going out to eat multiple times a day because that was not in line with my goals that I had for my health. So I decided to start making some copycat recipes at home. I would just try to use the ingredients that I had to recreate fast food things that I would order previously. And when I do that, I'm able to control what goes in it. I'm able to use my lower point substitutes or even just like my higher protein, higher fiber options, maybe incorporate more vegetables. And a lot of the time it feels like I can get a almost double portion or just a much bigger serving than when I get the food out or from a fast food place. And so it helps to just be more filling, usually half the points on WeightWatchers or even half the calories sometimes, and again, higher in protein. Just doing this has helped me to really stick to my goals and stay on track, but still satisfy the cravings for those types of meals because a lot of the time they taste just as good, sometimes even better. And it's something that I crave all the time still to this day. I do enjoy different fast food options. I'm never usually that satisfied after I actually have them, so that's why these also really help me. I end up doing more copycat versions at home than I even do getting fast food anymore, but it's just because, again, like I said, I like big portions and filling meals like that, and I really do try to keep them pretty simple. So if you enjoyed this video or find it helpful, please go ahead and give it a like and subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. And let me talk about what we're gonna be making today. I have specifically been craving Panda Express so much in the past couple weeks, and so that's kind of why I even decided to do this video. I wanted to show how I like to make the chow mein at home, as well as 2 things that I usually order. I really do like the Beijing beef, but my go-tos, I really like the orange chicken, of course, and then the honey walnut shrimp. So I'm going to be making lower point, lower calorie options of those 2 entrees today, as well as a version of chow mein at home, because I always get the chow mein whenever I go there. Like I said, these are just going to be using some different ingredients that are a little bit lower in points, or maybe even just cutting back on things like oil, especially. They use a good amount of oil at Panda, a good amount of sugar. So we're kind of taking those things out today and just making them lightened up versions. I'm gonna go ahead and get started with that. To make the chow mein, I don't really like celery, so I won't be including that in mine today, but theirs technically has celery. It's got cabbage and onion, and I usually prefer to use a head of cabbage just because I find it's a little more firm, and then it's more similar to the version from Panda Express, whereas if you get like the coleslaw bags, it usually gets a little bit more like soggy when you cook it up with the noodles. So I'm gonna chop this up with the onion and start cooking that in some toasted sesame oil, which gives it such good flavor. I always recommend this stuff because you really don't need too much to add a good amount of flavor to things, and it's just toasted sesame oil. I'll add that into a pan and heat it up and start cooking up the cabbage and onion. I'll add some garlic salt, garlic powder, and granulated onion to that. And then the noodles that I'll be using, you guys probably already know, they're going to be the Trader Joe's Thai wheat noodles. So for the actual Panda Express chow mein, they use wheat noodles, and these are very similar to the ones that they use. I'm going to be using 2 packs for the version I'm making today. With this chow mein, it'll give me 3 servings total out of 2 packs of noodles. These just need to be heated up in the pan. They take a few minutes, and I'm also going to add some soy sauce, so that'll also help to soften them up a little, and you just continue cooking them with the veggies. And that'll be the chow mein, super quick and easy. Then for the 2 entrees that I'm making, I'm keeping it really, really simple with the orange chicken today, but that's just realistic. It's how I would do it when I'm just making it for a meal for myself at home. So I always pick a chicken that's got some good breading on it. This is the brand Real Good Foods, and this is their lightly breaded chicken nuggets. I'm just gonna pop some in the air fryer, and I actually looked up the serving you get from Panda Express is 5 ounces of orange chicken. So the serving of this is 4. I just upped it to 5 ounces when I tracked it, which is only a 4-point serving on WeightWatchers, and I'll just pop it in the air fryer to cook it. So again, doing that takes some of the oil out of it, baking it or putting it in the air fryer instead. Then I got this from Walmart, and I'm just going to use it on the chicken, and I'll just toss it in it. This is the actual Panda Express orange sauce, but again, I'm in control of how much I want to use. The serving of 2 tablespoons is 5 points on WeightWatchers, and 1 tablespoon is 3 points. So I'm going to coat the chicken, see how much I get. If I want to do a full 2 tablespoon serving, but I'll see how I'm feeling once I start coating the chicken. So again, I just got this from Walmart, but it helps to just be able to make this at home. Same with like the Taco Bell sauces and seasonings they sell. It makes it that much easier to just make them taste similar to the actual items. Then I'm also going to be making the honey walnut shrimp. So I've got some raw shrimp here, and I'm not going to be breading it in tempura and frying it. I'm going to bake it in the oven. So I'll preheat the oven to about 425 right now, but I kind of wanted to do like a batter on it with some panko breadcrumbs because I like that extra crunch. So what I'm going to be doing is mixing together some flour, cornstarch, egg, and water with a little bit of seasoning, and that'll turn into a batter that I'll dip the shrimp in, and then I think I'm just going to dip it into panko or maybe sprinkle some panko on top. But then I'll just pop it in the oven to bake that. Once that's done, I'll toss it in the sauce that I'm going to make, which for their honey walnut shrimp sauce, it is like very sweet and it's kind of creamy. They actually use condensed milk for it. I'm not going to be doing that today. I've got some honey, and this is actually from the farmer's market. So it's a chili garlic honey. It's got such good flavor, and I thought that this would be perfect, but regular honey works too. So I'll be using this mixed together with some light mayonnaise because they also use mayonnaise in theirs. I'm also just going to use a little rice wine vinegar and then whisk that together to make the sauce that I'll coat the shrimp in. So this will all come together pretty quickly. I think I will just get the chicken cooking in the air fryer first, the veggies cut up and cooking, and then I'll start doing the shrimp to pop in the oven. But I'm gonna go ahead and assemble this nice Panda Express. Also, I did forget, I am making some vegetables too. They have a side of steamed veggies that you can get, and it's usually like broccoli, zucchini. I think there's pea pods in there. I've got some vegetables that I need to use up, including some snap peas, and then I'm going to use mushrooms and a red bell pepper. And I'm just gonna cook that up because a lot of the times when I do these copycat meals, I try to just add as many veggies where I can. And so that'll be nice to just mix in with the chow mein and add some extra vegetables, like I said. But I'm gonna go ahead and get that started. Usually when I do these copycat recipe videos, I try to recreate some of the higher point items, but I did want to include some vegetables, just like they have steamed vegetables as a side, because I had, first of all, some to use up, but also it just makes these meals more filling. And it was also nice because I cooked all of them up, so I did have some leftovers, but I started by chopping up the cabbage that I'm going to add to the toasted sesame oil heating up. I feel like usually it's big chunks of cabbage in the Panda Express version, so I wanted to do kind of similar so that you still get a nice crunch with it. And then I also chop up the onion. Like I said, you can include celery like their normal version does, I just don't always prefer it, so that's kind of why I did some extra cabbage. And I just continued to let those cook while I stirred them every few minutes. Then I started getting the shrimp ready. So in this bowl, I've got a 1/4 cup of flour, 3 tablespoons of cornstarch, some onion and garlic powder, and then I slowly add the water while I whisk it in to get it to the consistency I want. And I kind of messed up here. I meant to actually put the egg in first and then add the water. So I definitely recommend that so you don't make it too liquidy, but I just whisk it together until it's nice and runny. Then I've done it both ways where I dip the shrimp in the batter and then into the panko, but today I actually decided to just mix the panko into the batter. Really quickly, I had to stop to mix up the veggies and cabbage. I did add some soy sauce to both pans, and then to the cabbage I added some onion and garlic powder and some garlic salt. Then to heat the wheat noodles up, I just put them both in the pan and kind of cover them in the cabbage and let them sit for a couple minutes. Then back to the shrimp, I've just got my baking sheet ready to pop in the oven, which the oven has been preheating to 425. So I mixed all of the raw shrimp into the batter, and then I just decided this time to actually pour the panko in, and it kind of worked out better. I just mixed them around for a little bit until they were pretty fully coated, and then I add them to the baking sheet. I make sure to space them out, and then as I'm taking them out of the bowl, you can see I'm kind of just like swiping them to scoop up some of the extra batter and panko. Once I get them all on the tray, there's still a little bit of extra batter, so I just kind of scrape it up with my hands and add it to the top of the shrimp. I flip the noodles over and let them sit for a couple more minutes, and then you can see they just get nice and loose, and then you can separate them and mix them to combine them with the actual cabbage and onion. So the shrimp is just baking in the oven, and I want to get the honey sauce ready for it. I use my food scale to weigh out the light mayo, then I do about 1/2 to 1 teaspoon of rice wine vinegar. And then I use my food scale to weigh out the honey that I'm using. I wanted to use 1.5 tablespoons, which is around 31 grams. It takes a second to kind of break down the honey, but once I get it all combined, I just set that aside and take the shrimp out of the oven halfway to flip them over. I popped the shrimp back in the oven and let them continue to cook, and then my chicken was actually done in the air fryer, so they were kind of big chunks. I just used my kitchen scissors to cut them into smaller pieces, and then I put the bowl on the food scale and drizzled the sauce until it got to the right amount of grams. And then all you do is just toss the chicken around like this in the bowl to make sure you get it fully coated, which is exactly what I'm doing with the shrimp here. So I got it out of the oven and let it cool for a couple minutes, but then I added it to the honey sauce and just toss it around like this. And I almost forgot to add the walnuts to the honey walnut shrimp, which I meant to toast them in the oven for a couple minutes, but they are fine just like this, tossed into the sauce. And then everything is complete for my Copycat Panda Express. Okay, everything for my Copycat Panda Express is done. This is a nice big serving here, so I just wanted to have it all together with some vegetables so you could see how big of a portion it is. It's got plenty of vegetables, tons of protein, and I'm really quickly gonna run through the points on Weight Watchers for the regular item versus what I've got here. For an order of orange chicken this size, it's usually 18 points on Weight Watchers. It's got about 490 calories for that serving, and the serving that I've got here today is 7 points on Weight Watchers, so less than half the points, and it's about 250 calories for that serving. Then the veggies are usually 0 points on Weight Watchers, and this is different even than the regular veggie mix they have there, but it's just what vegetables I had on hand and I wanted to incorporate some more. So 0 points for these. I did add a little bit of soy sauce to them. Then I've got the honey walnut shrimp here. At Panda Express, this is usually 13 points for this portion, and then this version today is 7 points on Weight Watchers, so half the points again. And then for the portion of chow mein, usually at Panda Express it's 16 points, and this one here today is 7 points on Weight Watchers. All lower point options and really nice portions. This will be super filling. This usually is like a 47 point order on Weight Watchers, and this entire plate is 20 points today. It always helps me when I'm craving that takeout food and I know I have the ingredients on hand to throw these things together. You really can keep it simple, and actually what's even nice is getting some leftovers out of it. So I've got a leftover portion of the noodles and then the shrimp, and I can easily just make more chicken if I want it. It's just the bag in the freezer, and I just have to toss it in the sauce. So that wraps up the Copycat Panda Express meal. Okay, moving on to the next Copycat recipe that I'm making. I really enjoy jamba juice, but a lot of their options are pretty high in points. So it's one of those things that I like to just make at home. As much as sometimes it's nice to just pick up a smoothie on the go, I usually have all the ingredients here to make a smoothie similar to jamba juice. It is a little controversial with Weight Watchers because when it comes to points, technically blended fruits are supposed to count as points. For me, these smoothies are usually pretty filling and satiating, and I usually feel kind of full after them, so I don't count the blended fruit as points. I count it as 0 the same way as if I were to just eat it. But if you do track blended fruits, this will be higher point. Technically, a blended banana is 3 points on Weight Watchers, but this is 0 if you just ate it. For me, it just works best to incorporate smoothies and not count the blended fruit, but if that's something you want to do, definitely do that. Also, if you are on the diabetes plan, fruit does count for points. So keep that in mind with this one, but for the way I track it, I really only track it as 4 points. And the smoothie that I usually get is 16 points on Weight Watchers. So 4 to 16 is pretty good, especially because it's pretty much the same size and just as satisfying and filling. The way that I'm going to be making it today, I've got these blender cups. We just have a Ninja blender, so I just make them individually in these. I'm going to be making one for both me and Adam today, and ours are going to be a little bit different, so I can show you some different options. With the juices, I found that they taste the most similar to places like Jamba Juice or Tropical Smoothie Cafe when you use orange juice. I've got this regular orange juice here. This is just no pulp. It is 4 points for the 8-ounce serving, and this is what I'm going to be using in my smoothie. The one that Adam enjoys is mango, so we actually got this Mango Passion Minute Maid 0 sugar. It's 0 points on Weight Watchers for the cup serving, so this will be his liquid and his, and that pretty much makes his 0 points on Weight Watchers. Now, a lot of the times when I make these at home, I do add some vanilla protein powder to bulk them up a little bit, add a little extra protein. We've already had protein shakes today, so I don't really want to add the protein in today, but I do recommend doing that. Usually it just ends up adding 1 to 2 points depending on what protein powder you use, but then you can add usually 20 to 30 grams of protein, make it a little bit more filling and just a satisfying meal or snack. So for mine, the Aloha pineapple, it has banana, it's got pineapples. So I've just got this pineapple from Trader Joe's from the freezer section. And then I've got some strawberries from Aldi, also frozen. I'm just going to be using this. I don't even add ice cubes to my smoothies when I make them. If I make a protein shake, I usually do. But again, when I'm going for the jamba juice style, I feel like it's best just using the frozen fruit. So I'll use some of that with the banana and then the orange juice. I do like to sweeten it a little bit, so sometimes I'll add in a stevia packet. Today I'm actually going to use some of this skinny syrup. It's a peach flavor skinny syrup. So this is 0 points on WeightWatchers, and it'll just add some extra sweetness to this. I feel like one thing that really makes a difference and kind of gives it that fluffiness is just blending it a little bit extra. I think that's kind of what they do to give it the consistency that it is at Jamba, and it's always just so perfect. So that's what I'm going for with these. Then, like I said, Adam's is going to be a little different. So his is the mango a-go-go, which I'm going to be using this mango passion juice. Then I've got some frozen mango chunks, and it also has pineapple in it. His doesn't technically have banana, but I'm gonna be adding one to his as well to just make it a little more filling and help the consistency, but you don't have to include the banana. So I just go ahead and pour in the liquid first, because then I can measure up to 8 ounces. Then I add in the fruit, blend it up, and that'll be my smoothie. I love that these blender cups have the lines giving the measurements on the side, and sometimes I forget and I put the fruit in first, but it makes it so much easier to just measure out the liquid first. Once I do that, I start adding the fruit. So I've got a banana in each cup. Technically, the one that Adam orders doesn't have banana, but I wanted to make it just a little bit thicker, and he also prefers the flavor. So I did add a banana to his this time, but then also some frozen mango and pineapple. Then mine gets frozen pineapple and strawberries. I make sure the lid's on, and then I blend it, usually for a couple rounds, to make sure that it gets kind of fluffy. It's still a little bit liquidy because I put a decent amount of the juice and I don't add extra ice. Like I mentioned, if you want to add extra ice, you can do that to thicken it up. But this is always the consistency we prefer, so once I'm done blending them, I just add them to our cups and they are done. Okay, our jamba juice at home is done. I got these cups off of Amazon. I actually ordered them so that I could have them for just random times when I want a protein coffee on the go and don't want to worry about a cup. I don't use them all the time. They'll probably last me very long, but I thought they'd be perfect for our smoothies today. And it's exactly 24 ounces, which the medium at Jamba is 22 ounces, the large is 28. So it's closest to the medium, which is usually 16 points for this. Today, this is 4 points.
16 points for this, and today it's
0.
0.
Unless you count blended fruit, but again, we're not doing that. So we're gonna give it a quick taste test. Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh my gosh. Tastes like the Aloha pineapple.
Oh my gosh.
Wait, I like yours. Those are good.
Wow.
The peach syrup isn't overpowering with the flavor, but it adds a good amount of sweetness. But I like when it's a little bit more on the liquidy side.
Yeah.
So you can add ice and make it a little bit thicker, but usually just the frozen fruit's good.
I just drink it too fast when it's too thin.
I know, I get a brain freeze every time. But yeah, that's our jamba, and now we're gonna do some Pizza Hut. Moving on to the next copycat recipe that we are making, it is going to be a personal pan meat lovers pizza based off the Pizza Hut personal pan pizza. That pizza is usually 6 inches. Today I'm going to be using an 8-inch pan just because I want to make sure I can fit it in there, but you could also use a 6-inch pan, or I really like to use my baking dishes that I get from IKEA, but for the purpose of trying to make it like the Pizza Hut one, I'm doing a round version today. So I'm going to be making a dough using 2-ingredient dough. To make that, I mix 1 1/3 cup of all-purpose flour with a teaspoon of baking powder. If you have self-rising, you could just use that instead, but I find I have better success using the separate baking powder and flour. Then I add some seasonings to it, so I'll do some garlic salt as well as some of this Kinder's garlic butter flavor. I feel like the Pizza Hut pizza crust is pretty buttery, so that'll help to give some extra flavor. And then when I spray the pan, I do use a non-stick butter flavored spray. It also just kind of adds to that buttery flavor of the crust. So I'll take this and just spray it with the butter spray. Then I take the portion of 2-ingredient dough, which will be a half portion of the batch. So that'll be 9 points, which is a little bit high, but it is a nice serving. So 9 points for the dough. Once I spread it into the pan, I'll pop it in the oven at 400 and let it bake for about 10 minutes just to get it par baked. Then I'll add the toppings. For the toppings, I'm just gonna use a can of tomato sauce with some seasoning. Then, like I said, we're doing meat lovers pizza today. So I'm gonna add a slice of bacon. I just prepped prepped this earlier. This will be 1 point for one. It's just center cut bacon. I'm going to add some turkey pepperoni, and I think you can have, it's about 12 slices for 1 point. And then I've got some chicken sausage links in the freezer. The brand is Jones, and you can have 1.5 links for 1 point on Weight Watchers. So I'll just split one between mine and Adam's pizza. We'll each have 1.5 of the sausage, and I'll just cut it up and put it on top. So I just did 1 point of each meat, and they're just kind of lightened up ingredients that I like to incorporate that help to make this lower point. For the cheese, I don't have any shredded mozzarella, so I'm just gonna rip up a slice of this mozzarella cheese from Aldi. And then I'm also going to add just a point of this Mexican cheese blend on top as well. So that'll be everything for my meat lovers personal pan pizza. And like I said, it'll even be a little bit bigger because I'm using this. And this is just an old cake pan I don't use anymore. So it's 8 inches and it'll be the perfect size for this. Usually the Pizza Hut is a 6-inch version and theirs is 30 points on Weight Watchers. This one today will be 15 points and their version is around 840 calories. And this one today is around 580. So a much lower point and lower calorie option, but also will be just as filling, if not honestly more filling, and we can control everything that goes in it. So I'm gonna preheat the oven to 400 and get this dough started, and then everything comes together pretty quickly after that. I feel like I've shared so many times making 2-ingredient dough and it's always the same, but I just get a bowl where I add the flour, baking powder, seasoning, and Greek yogurt. I always prefer to put some food gloves on and just mix the dough with my hands. I feel like that's the easiest way to get it fully combined, and by the end I'm pretty much just kneading it. But once I do get it fully combined to form a dough, I use my food scale to weigh out equal portions. And this is a double batch of dough today. I feel like every time I make 2-ingredient dough now, I do make a double batch because I like to have some extra pitas. If I'm going through the process of making the dough, I might as well just make some extra. But for the actual pizza portion, I just flatten it out into the baking dish I'm using, and then I pop it in the oven to par bake while I get everything else prepared. I just added some seasonings to a plain can of tomato sauce, and then I start chopping up the different meat for the meat lovers pizza. These chicken sausage links were perfect to get the sausage taste, but not have to make a whole batch of it or anything. I was able to just heat up a couple links to chop them up. And I had already prepped center cut bacon earlier, so it was nice to just chop that slice up and have it ready for the pizza, as well as the pepperoni, and then I chopped up the slices of cheese because I didn't have shredded mozzarella. The dough has been baking for 10 minutes at 400, so I pull it out and start to add the toppings, which include the pizza sauce, the mozzarella cheese, a 1 point serving of shredded Mexican blend cheese that I weighed out with my food scale, and then I add the chopped up meat, which is the chicken sausage, turkey pepperoni, and center cut bacon. I pop the pizza back in the oven and let it bake for another 15 to 20 minutes until it gets nice and golden brown, and then it is done. Okay, my pizza just came out of the oven. I par baked the dough for 10 minutes, and then when I put the toppings on and put it back in, it was another 10 minutes. I rotated and another 10, and now it is done. Like I mentioned before, this is 15 points total on Weight Watchers. The one from Pizza Hut is 30 points, so half the points for this serving. It's also got a good amount of protein. This is 43 grams, so it'll be nice and filling and help me to hit my protein goals. It works out perfectly to just do 1 point of each meat. So I got the slice of center cut bacon for one, the 1 point serving of turkey pepperoni, and then the 1.5 sausage links for 1 point, and then the cheese is nice and spread out. So this is the finished product, and that wraps up my copycat fast food takeout recipe video. I really like to do these copycat recipes at home. It helps to satisfy the cravings that I have while also being able to have a bigger portion, and they're always just really enjoyable meals. That wraps up my video. I hope you guys enjoyed it and found it helpful. If you did, please go ahead and give it a like and subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. I'll have the recipes typed out in the description below, and thank you guys for watching.